Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Through the Pages, my YouTube book review channel. So, I'm excited to dig into this book because it's an author that I think you'll see a lot more of on here, and I think through reading more of his books, I'll understand this book more. So, today's book is The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. So, this is the second book I've read from him. The other I adored, South of the Border, West of the Sun. So, longtime viewers of the show have probably heard me mention Jared Bartman on here. He's a fellow bookworm in town, and he gave me this book for Christmas. Aside from having an incredible cover, it's an incredible book, but Jared is a huge Murakami head, if that's the term for that gang. I assume there's a gang. So, this was one of the longest books I've ever read. And I think as someone who loves books and looks forward to the holiday season, like giving, I always want to give books, but then it can feel like I'm giving you something to put on your to-do list. And so, bold move from Jared, giving an over 600-page book, but he would hit the mark. So, this man has quite a bibliography. I have read, like I said, one of them. This is like the next book that came out. It's kind of like on the back half somewhere in there. This was 1994. It reminds me of Vonnegut in the way that if I'm about to explain a little bit kind of like Vonnegut, like what happens, it's not like a really intense plot, it's not like a murder mystery, like, so if describing it seems a little like there was 600 pages, Joe, are you sure about that? So much like South of the Border, West of the Sun, it tells the story of kind of a lonely Japanese man, and in this instance things just kind of start to go weird, and it's delightful. Like, it just has that right amount of surrealism in it, and it kept making me think of the show Lost, like not in a similar plot aspect at all, but just in that odd things would happen, and it felt like, as a viewer, that's what you were looking for, and you knew, like, I'm gonna get rewarded for this. Like, it's gonna come around. Not necessarily, like, full detailed explanation of every single thing, but it wasn't just, like, weirdness for weirdness sake, and then it's gonna be like, oh, it was just a dream. Never mind. Like, it was very satisfying to read. So one thing that kind of didn't hit me until afterwards, or towards like the tail end of the book, was how much I was liking the characters, especially some who initially I was a little bit almost kind of bothered by. They were all so odd. Like the main person in it was the only like normal person. Like he was just kind of a pretty straightforward guy, and very much like a guy in the sense that, like, he didn't express his emotions a ton. It was just like you would see what was happening and knew probably how that made him feel, but he wasn't, it wasn't like a gushing diary of this is my day-to-day. It was just like pretty curt, I would say. But these people come into his life that evoke so much oddity, and some being real young like May, and then she'd write letters, and I would just be like, this is like the ramblings of a teenage girl. Like, can we get back to the book here? And then, like, towards the tail end of the book, I'm like, we're gonna run out of stuff from May. Like, oh, that character is so crazy. And so, like, I really just, like, got pulled into this book more and more as I was reading it. And so I have heard from Jared and other little research online and stuff that this might be his, like, top book. Norwegian Wood is supposed to be pretty great too, but honestly, if anything's close to this, like, I'm gonna be a Murakami head for life. Whatever the gang is, whatever the name for that squad is, I will become a part of it. So I'm not sure where I'm turning next in his bibliography. Jared recommended one. We actually had dinner the other night and just kind of like gabbed about the book and stuff. But the title was so bizarre I cannot remember it. The one thing I will say on this book is that there are a couple things that just do not get explained at all. And if you're someone who that would be a bother to, I would understand sidestepping this book. But I can deal with a lot of that, and at a certain point, like, you were like over 500 pages in, you're kind of dwindling that last bit there. Is like, I realized, like, we're not getting explanations on some of this, are we? Like, because I want it to continue kind of at the pace it is, and being just like expansive in a way that, but still quite beautiful. Where I was glad the last like 50 pages weren't just like explanation, like working it all in. It just felt like like one long dream. And I hate to like basically plagiarize the quote. It says right on the front, it's dreamlike, and like it's accurate. You know, like I share that belief. I don't necessarily just copy it. It had these. I don't like giving anything away, and that makes it more difficult to talk about fiction in these than nonfiction, obviously. But so it just really sucked me in. I really like a little bit of strangeness. Like one of my favorite mystery books recently was that 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I just rearranged my books, and I thought it was right here. I added this white shelf, and now it's not. I don't know where it's at, so I was gonna grab it. But that was like such a good mix of like bizarre, like mystery stuff, but then also like bizarre shit. So like I like novels like this that have surrealism or just absurdity to them in a way where it feels like anything could happen. If it's so straightforward, and it's not to say that I don't like those books. Like I have Revolutionary Road sitting on my nightstand. It's a pretty straightforward tale of the 50s. Like it's nothing weird gonna happen in that. It's pretty straightforward. So I just think in a novel there's greater potential, not necessarily in the novel, but in my capacity to be enthralled if it's got a little bit of surrealism to it. And he walked that line very well. If you have read other books by him, drop a comment. What's your favorite? Or where should I go next, having read these two? I've heard that he has the series of 4 that he started off with, but that's maybe not the best place to start. Or that book 3 and 4 are great, book 1 and 2 not so much. But yeah, I definitely plan to read more of him, and I think through reading it I'll get a better understanding of not only this book but South of the Border, West of the Sun. It just seems like there's little reoccurring themes in there, and I think they speak to his life. Like I just saw in an interview where he had owned a jazz club, and that speaks very much to the South of the Border, West of the Sun, where that's autobiographical in a way in there. But something I noticed on these two books was they both had a female character with like a distinct limp or walking problem. And it just seems like an odd thing to have in there twice, I guess. And maybe there's more. Because like when I talked with Jared, I think he said like I hadn't really like noticed that, but also like I just read them back to back in his bibliography, so like maybe that's more prominent to me. But now I'm on the hunt of like, what are these little reoccurring themes? Kind of like how Vonnegut has reoccurring characters, which I guess Murakami does too. One person from this, like one really kind of odd, weird, nasty dude, is apparently in stuff more, and I love that stuff. It just creates a universe unto itself. And so sometimes you have these characters that are so developed and formed, and to be done with them seems odd. So I really look forward to reading more, not just because his books are fantastic, but to expand that little world, that little dream that you kind of hover in that's shared with his head. So I want to see if there's more reoccurring themes and what they might be, or what they go back to. It's one of those things that, just like I was saying with Lost, it feels like he's giving something to the reader. Like, you're really reading my stuff, you're going to notice it, and like you get that depth that you get from fandom, I guess. He's a fascinating author, and I remember I first heard his name when he won like Author of the Year or something, and then like the woman of the bookstore, Jessica, was like, oh, these are gonna start selling like crazy. It always does when someone gets it. And I always like wanted to read his stuff since then, but for some reason felt intimidated. I don't know why, but at some point saw a copy of South of the Border, West of the Sun out there. Really liked the cover. I mean, come on. So I was really glad I got into him, and then to have sort of a Sherpa through all of this, being Jared Bartman, super helpful. So you will see more from him on here. I got a thick little stack of books to read yet. No need to be ordering or buying books right now. So that's probably going to be summer, but I'm eager for it. So, like I said, drop a comment below if you have read anything by this man and have any insights on what I should read next from him. But that being said, if you are ever wanting to check him out, don't feel intimidated by the 600 page count on here, because it is so worth it. Every character was just so engrossing, and so the plot kept kind of just, it was mind-blowing in a way. And so, yeah, big recommendation on that one. Might be one of my favorite novels I read this year. We will see. But probably going to be in the top 10. I don't know. We'll find out. Thank you for watching.